They're the worst version of Seattle we've ever seen. I mean, I don't even think it's close. Obviously, their record speaks for itself. They're 3-8. I mean, they're not only not going to the playoffs. I mean, their draft pick right now is in the top 5. Top 5. That's I honestly I tweeted this last time.
But it's not theirs.
I'm kind of at a loss watching them because obviously they pulled games out of their ass the last several years, and I think all of us, it crossed our mind they were going to pull that game, from the depths of their crevices. But to me, they never even felt when they were pulling games out they were a 3-8 team, right? I mean, guy, you're 3-8. They're headed for 5-12. Like that's the path they're on. It's crazy to watch as West Coast, NFC West people that have just consumed so many of their random games. We obviously watch a lot, them versus the Niners, them versus the Rams, them versus the Cardinals, because they play a lot of those games in prime time and they matter. But how many times have you watched them against random teams? Shitty ones. They're always in tight games. They always pull it off. And when they play better opponents, they've always won. I mean, it feels over. And part of it, like you're allowed a bad season, part of it feels like the carryover from the offseason. It just, Pete 70, Russell doesn't really like him. They hired this offensive coordinator, Waldron from the Rams. It clearly hasn't worked. Now, Russell's hurt right now, but he just, I just looked up his stat line last night. It looks better, 21 of 30 for 240 yards, 2 touchdowns. It didn't feel that way. Now, I bet he, gained probably 60 plus 70 yards on that last drive. But man, I don't know. What do you think?
I thought it was stunning. I'm with you. And I'd been thinking about this for a couple of weeks because I've had this thought in my head that like nobody hates offensive coordinators like Seattle. Washington fans have only had one good one in who knows how many years with Jonathan Smith. They hated their guy the last 2 years that Jimmy had. The Seahawks, as good as they've been, they hate every offensive coordinator. And so I've actually been thinking about this for a couple of weeks. And then I saw a tweet last night from somebody who covers the Seahawks who suggested that Shane Waldron, could Shane Waldron be one and done? Now, if Pete's gone and Russ is gone, then maybe he definitely could be one and done. But Russell Wilson not only doesn't get offensive coaches promoted, he gets them fired. And that makes him different than almost every other great quarterback in the NFL in the last 30 years. I mean, if you are an offensive coach, coordinator, QB coach for a future Hall of Fame quarterback, you are going to get somebody on your staff is going to get a job out of that. Listen to this list and feel free to jump in if you think I'm missing anybody. But let's go through some of the greatest quarterbacks of the last 25, 30 years in the NFL.
Hackenberg.
They all get Bill O'Brien a job. They all get guys jobs. Brady, Bill O'Brien, actually. So we can start with him. Josh McDaniels, Charlie Weiss, Byron Leftwich is probably going to become a head coach because of Brady. Joe Montana, Shanahan at Holmgren and Gruden. Peyton Manning, Bruce Arians, Mike McCoy became a head coach because of Peyton. Adam Gase became a head coach because of Peyton. Drew Brees. When Drew was leaving San Diego, Cam Cameron was his OC. Cam just had a great year with Rivers. But Doug Marrone was his offensive coordinator. John Elway. Mike Shanahan got the head coaching job. Chan Gailey. Jim Fossil. Gary Kubiak. Aaron Rodgers. Joe Philbin. Ben McAdoo was his quarterback coach before he went to New York to become the offensive coordinator. And Nathaniel Hackett, who's the OC there now, is probably going to get a job. Favre.
I actually think, and I told you this before the podcast, I think you got to throw McCarthy in there as well. Even though Rodgers got McCarthy fired, he would not have got rehired if he didn't have the resume he had under Rodgers.
Right? I didn't have him on. I think you're right about that. I think the fact that he coached Rodgers, even though he got fired, is what gets him the Cowboy job.
It's not like he had this resume of like Andy Reid working with all these quarterbacks when he was with the Eagles, right? McCarthy's whole resume was Aaron Rodgers.
Right?
I mean,
Andy Reid, that was the other guy on Favre. Aikman, Norv Turner, Steve Young, Shanahan, Greg Knapp, Marty Mornhinweg. Went to Detroit after that.
Yeah.
Mark Trestman, Roethlisberger, Ken Wisenhunt was his OC. Kurt Warner, Mike Martz became the head coach. Todd Haley got a head coaching job. Rivers, I mentioned Cam Cameron. Rod Chudzinski went from the tight end coach in San Diego to the OC in Cleveland. Ken Wisenhunt was back after he was the head coach in Arizona, was 1 year OC for Rivers, got the Tennessee head job. McAdoo again, Eli Manning. McAdoo was his OC after he got sent to Eli from from a Rodgers and became the head coach. Cam Newton. Rob Chudzinski got the Browns job after he was Cam's OC. Donovan McNabb got Pat Shurmur and Brad Childress jobs. Warren Moon got Brian Billick and Mike Tice jobs. Now, maybe I'm missing like one of the best, that's not a complete list of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, but that's, the last 25, 30 years. It's like 25 years plus Elway, Montana, the only guy,
Drew Brees, Dan Campbell.
Dan Campbell. Ted Marchibroda. Jim Kelly got him a job. The only guy that I couldn't, and I'll admit I don't know enough about the dynamic of the Dolphins offense, nobody got a job from Marino. But, like, John, listen to that list and tell me, how is it that Darrell Bevell fired, Schottenheimer out, Shane Waldron now's not good enough? How come? Now, maybe it's the organization. That's not just about Russ. But I never would, if you told me Russell Wilson, if you just read me his career, I'd go, well, how many people got, at least one OC became a head coach?
But I'd also say, think of all the guys like under Pete never had a problem getting guys jobs at USC, offensive guys, right? All those guys.
That's right.
Think about all the guys under Pete on defense over the years. He produced like 3 head coaches. Saleh doesn't totally count, but he started with Pete. Obviously, Gus and Dan Quinn. So it's not like Seattle wasn't shooting guys out. Hell, their GM got a job. Why? The guys Russ is really the closest with. It is great angle by you because it is nuts. It is.
So what
nuts.
is it? I
got one. He's a little bit of an NBA player. Like there is a drama that clearly from a football standpoint, you can say whatever you want about Rodgers being a little weird. I do think he's kind of a football nerd. Like when he's footballing out with his football guys, I think he's a little more genuine football-wise than I think you described the Russ party. He threw a party where he invited everyone there. He had a fucking security guard around him. Everyone at the party was invited from him. We can say what we want about Rodgers and his family and some stuff, even though I bet if the details came out, more people would probably lean with Rodgers and just go on The Bachelor. Like if my parents ever did that to me, I don't know if I'd disown him, but I would not have been happy.
Wild.
So I think Rodgers gets along with his football people much better than Russ. Look at Rodgers' relationship with his wide receivers. Why are all Russell's relationships with the players always weird? Like we're all these famous players. No one's ever just kind of pounding the table for him. Hell, Tyler Lockett, I watch him every game. I'm like, God damn, this guy's good.
Yeah.
I never feel like he's just like, Russell, my guy. Devontae Adams is like, if he's not here, I'm out. Right? Randall Cobb is like, come get me, Aaron. Aaron Jones like, I love being here. I was reading some Albert Breer quotes about A.J. Dillon. He's like, this offense, man, playing with Aaron, it's like they love it.
Yeah.
And I've been saying for a while, I think Aaron Rodgers, because I do think they're kind of put in this duo together. Like they're two great players, both won a Super Bowl, both going to the Hall of Fame. Rodgers is better than Russell, but like kind of weird. Peyton and Tom are like beloved. Same with Breeze. I do not put Aaron with Russell. I think Russell, and it's weird because like for people Niner people that have watched Russell at minimum, right, 2 times a year for the last 9 years, it's hard. And anyone that's gone to see him live to be like, that's one of the best players I've ever seen, any sport. That was remarkable. He is a remarkable player before this season. Remarkable. I've seen him live probably 4 or 5 times. I don't even know if I've ever seen him lose against the Niners, thinking back. I haven't. He's won every game I've ever attended. Even I went to the Monday night game, the Super Bowl year, and he fucking beat him in overtime because Jimmy threw a terrible pick. Yeah, and they didn't have a kicker. But he's a great player. But clearly there is just other stuff that comes along with being a quarterback, and I think it's twofold. You are you're basically an assistant coach / you got to be like the leader of all your guys. And I do think we have to question that a little bit with him. And now things are going off the rails. It doesn't feel like he's Mr., going to help build him out. Now, part of it, I do think he's a shell of himself right now. Like throwing the ball, he's throwing some balls that just like his accuracy with the finger. Like, guy, you can't not sleep 19 hours a day and work the finger. Maybe his finger's just fucked.
Maybe something else is wrong with him.
Like what?
I don't know. I
I've
just
never
mean
seen him
something else.
take-
I mean, another physical ailment is what I'm saying.
I mean, feels like I've watched 100
Maybe he's
Russell
checked
Wilson
out.
games. I have never, ever seen him take the sack that he took when he rolls out. He just like stood there. It's like he just stopped, and then the guy just shoved him. It was bizarre. That is
Bizarre.
a sack that like a
Like he didn't
Peterman
see him?
takes. That was weird.
John, his agent gave a list of teams they could trade him to in the offseason.
But you say he checked out, and I want to say that too, and then he leaves him on the game-tying touchdown drive.
I know. Well, he's still out there playing. I don't know. But it's a mess right now.